There are stories that connect us to ourselves and to each other. These stories reveal who we are and show us the many vivid colors of our truth. Welcome to Soul Wanderings, where we raise spiritual awareness and foster connections through these shared stories and personal experiences. Now, exclusively on KGRA Digital Broadcasting, your hosts, AJ and Natalie.
Hello, everyone. This is Soul Wanderings on Wednesday night, hosted here on KGRA Digital Broadcasting.
Hello.
I'm AJ.
And I'm Natalie.
Oh, yeah, our names are still the same.
It's still the same. They haven't changed at all.
No, they have not changed at all. We are still very much us.
We are.
Welcome, everyone, as you pile in. I hope you are hanging out with us in the chat rooms tonight on Facebook and Rumble under KGRA Digital Broadcasting, or you can be listening live on kgradb.com. All places are lovely.
All the places.
For the live show.
Right.
And then that triples or quadruples for replays all over. The replays are all over.
In all the places.
In all the places.
Yes. Or our lovely soulwanderings.com, right?
Yeah.
For the replays.
Absolutely. Good. Natalie, good job.
I'm working on it. In case ever I need to do this, I've got to practice on occasion and be like, and this is what we say.
The film night with the headache, I was like, oh
yes.
I wish Natalie was ready because I'm not.
It's like, oh.
But I've never done a Soul Wanderings without me before. That would be
like
something.
You've always had it with yourself.
Yeah, I've always done the show by myself or with somebody.
We can't. Soul Wanderings really is essentially you and me now.
I
but
was
it's
about
you.
to say, not so much.
Right. And me now, but you definitely make a point. You've done it.
I mean, I created it. We are here for that.
Right. So all thankfully for you. Lots and lots of conversations. What's that been like, having all these different conversations and all these topics and all these concepts throughout all these years that you get exposure to?
You know, I've grown a lot. I've grown a whole lot. I've thought about that recently too, because I'm in this space of fine-tuning my abilities and my craft, right? Because I can do a lot of really cool things.
Yes.
And I've always but I need to do a little bit of all of them because they all make me happy.
Oh.
But it also brings me a lot of craziness, if you will.
If you do all of it?
Yeah. You know, like a little bit of everything, just because I'm all over the place.
Right, right.
So I've realized that I've spread myself super thin, and I really need to focus in on what really fulfills me. Like, just because I'm capable of doing something doesn't mean I need to do all the things that I'm capable of doing.
That makes sense.
And I've just came to this conclusion in the last couple of weeks. Literally within the month, like less than a month. And I love it because I have all this renewed energy, because I'm like, yes, I know what I'm going to be when I grow up. I figured it out.
For the moment.
But yes, as things go with me, I get bored. And I'm like, I've got to switch this up. This is not going to work for me long term.
I can understand that completely.
But I still want to stay true to what I'm meant to do in my life, my callings in life. So everything revolves around that. They just have different names, right? Because I do crystal healing. However, I've put that on a shelf. It's not really speaking to me right now.
Right.
And hasn't for a few months. And then go back to another thing that I was trained in that we've been talking about, that I'm like, oh yes, this is it. And I feel like I've always done that anyway without the actual device.
Right.
And so that I don't feel like will go away. It's just going to be an addition to what I do.
Oh, for sure.
And then I've been creating like a mad woman.
I'm so excited about the stuff that you've been creating.
It's so much fun. fun.
Seeing all of that, it's like, woo. And it's nice to see you back in your creative flow.
It's very therapeutic. I'm a
Mm.
happier human being when I'm creating. Let's just say that. Everyone agrees around me.
They're like, oh, why aren't you creating? Why don't you do that? That would be good for us.
Anytime. Yes. Yes. It's like
good
that.
for us when you create. So please, for our sake, be good to yourself.
Yes. Anytime I'm just like, ugh, I get a comment. When's the last time you created?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm focusing on doing that a little bit every day, if possible. At least give myself 30 minutes a day, which doesn't allow you to create much. Like I just get started after 30 minutes and I'm like, oh, dang, I got to go.
Right.
So that's not fun for me. And I don't like to do that. But if I can at least just be in the space in which I create and maybe clean it up in that 30 minutes or organize for the next project or something like that, it's still the same energy and it still feels really good.
Oh, that's so beautiful. One thing that I was thinking of as you were talking is that we, as we go through life, there are ebbs and flows in the world, the greater world at large.
Mm-hmm.
And so often we're called to put things down or pick things up because of there's a need, there's a current draw on the energy. So to show up the way that you show up for, and you get a sample of that often in this story. You get a read on what's the pulse of the community or what's the pulse of the world and what does the world need. And so how can you show up and give that? I know I get that in my business too.
It's true.
So it's just like, oh, there's ebbs and flows and the ability to be fluid. It helps so much.
It does. And here I thought like 6 months ago, I was going to open another business. I was like, I'm going to do this. And I bought everything for it. And it sat there. It's still sitting there. But within this last month, as I'm gaining clarity, I actually know how I can implement that in what I'm doing. It's just going to look different. And then I didn't waste my investment.
Right.
So that's exciting. I'm just like all over the place, but really, everyone, I am narrowing things down.
Fine tuning.
It is ADHD a little bit, but I'm figuring it out.
That ADHD must also be a some sort of energetic thing too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I definitely have that going for me, but I'm working with it. And it's good. I feel like it just gives me more creativity.
I'm so excited for you.
Thanks. I'm excited for us.
Yes. I am excited for the new venture.
Yes, it will be so much fun.
To see how that all unfolds.
Yeah, everyone's like, what are they talking about?
Well, we'll probably announce it in the future, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, Natalie and I are up to things.
Yes.
As we do.
Got to be up to things. It leads to excitement.
Yeah. And then in the future, when we attend events, we'll be able to share those things with you.
That's right.
All this and all that.
All that.
How's your week been?
My week's been good. I was thinking today because I was doing I have these very large juniper, or they're called, I was doing a little research today because they're arborvitae trees, but they're very big. I mean, they're like 7 or 8 feet tall because they've grown over years and years and years. And I think spider mites in them. And so I was like, oh, what do I do with that? And it was sort of a very pragmatic trimming them experience. And it's like, there are times where, and as with you were just saying, do a little bit in the creativity thing. And I find that in the maintenance of my home, I have to do a little bit at a time. And it goes along with my design and different things that I've learned about myself and just really allowing for things to take time. So that was my insight today, that I've definitely, I'm in my 50s now, and over all this life that I've lived, I've learned that there's less reason more and more to hurry.
I agree with that.
So it's like, look, most things don't require a rush.
It's true.
So I was just letting myself take my time and being careful because I have to climb up on the ladder and I have this trimmer. Plus I was thinking, I love my cordless battery powered trimmer that I've had. years and years have done this with corded tree trimmers, and it's just sometimes I nick the cord. It's just all so much better with a battery powered one. So it was nice because I was outside, and then a little storm blew through, which was nice because it cut the sun, and I got my fills and a little bit of vitamin D from the sun today.
Love
And it looks better that at least this one section is done. And that sense of accomplishment versus the sense of the to-do list hanging over. To-do lists can be really, they can just be weighing on you. Well, for me, speaking of me, but that's been nice. I've had a good weekend. I mean, a good week. And then the weekend was just working with people and pacing myself out. And but I do have to say, so I went to my chiropractor that does energy work, and something metaphysical came up, and he's like, well, there's a ghost in your energy field. And I said,
what?
It's a occupational hazard for me.
Oh my goodness.
Well, it's interesting that came up, and we're going to have the topic of our guest is going to be talking of. But yes, I had never had a ghost come up in my energy field. So he clears it.
That's interesting.
It's lovely. Just clears that out.
Piggybacking on you,
I guess.
or what is that
well,
about?
Who knows? In the business of grief, could be a new person. There was a couple new people that came in to my grief group this week, so could be one of them. I had a person come with. So this is an interesting concept, and this is with grief. But this woman called me, and she had a loss. It was a suicide loss, but it was 24 years ago. And she had never dealt with it.
Oh.
And she just it's cracked open recently. And she says, I get some more recent losses, and some things have just squeezed. This happens often. Like, we have lots of conversations about healing. Healing does not mean that it's the most recent stuff. It's over time. So she came, and she just is a little anxious about it because she's got vulnerable, and it's got to crack it open, and she hasn't dealt with it. But maybe it could be that. I don't know. I don't worry about it so much. She's like, good. I'm glad someone that can clear that off.
Yeah. Usually the things we're healing from isn't something recent. It's all the stuff that we've been carrying around with us for who knows how long.
And the willingness when something is bubbling up and it on the inside of yourself, the willingness to search out, and the support for bereavement and suicide loss specifically is definitely grown. And there's more available now than there was like 24 years ago.
So sure.
It's
unfortunately, it's more common than ever.
I know.
That's probably why
people joining the club, the people that have lost someone to suicide. It's rough. But there is healing, and I get the honor of being able to watch people as they go through their healing and make those ouchies a little less.
And you're just so wonderful at it.
Oh, thanks.
Such a compassionate heart.
Someone told me recently, you have a real gift for this.
You get told that often.
Well, it depends on it. Well,
I've heard it. I hear things. I happen to be where you are.
Right.
At times.
After I did a speaking engagement for the mortuary I work with here, does this butterfly release. And so that was last week where they released over 300 butterflies. And so people come and they get a butterfly in honor of their loved one. And I say a little something about it. And one of the things that I was talking about, I had walked in with these couple of ladies, and they both had lost infants. Sad infant loss. And they had met each other, and they discovered that they both had been in the same room, I guess, but they both had lost their babies. And so that just made me think. And then when I got up to speak, I said, it doesn't matter the space or the age. Every human body takes up space. And if that body dies, you find yourself falling into the hole that body left when it died. And when you fall into that hole, it's a little darker than for a moment you fall into the hole. You have to crawl out of the hole. There's that aspect of it. And then there's sort of the darkness and there's the feelings when you fall down, figuratively.
Right.
But, and that's just what love looks like.
It is. We're very fortunate and blessed to love so big.
We do. Yes.
It's awesome.
It is awesome.
And the work you're doing is awesome. Good job.
Right. Thank you.
Good job.
Lighten it up as much as I can.
I mean, there does need to be that too. It's helpful.
Yeah.
Speaking of lighting up,
Yes.
I'm excited about our guest tonight.
Yes.
I'm all like, bing. Love these topics. Right?
Yes.
They're so good. So if you guys are just coming to the show because you are regular, not that you're a regular person, but regulars in Wandering with us and aren't quite sure who's going to be on our show tonight, you'll hear about him here shortly.
Right.
But the topics that we're going to be hearing about are right up your alley because you're here listening on Soul Wanderings. First of all. Second of all, it's KGRA. We talk about paranormal and all anomalous topics, which is the good stuff, in my opinion. I love talking about this stuff. We have spiritual stuff on the show.
Yes.
So good. I like that too. It's a little woo-woo at times for me, but there's something for everyone.
There is.
These topics. So like, this is the stuff that gets me excited.
So I'm curious, paranormal. How would you sum that up? It seems like such an elementary sort of question. And even when I was thinking about asking this earlier, I thought, well, I still want to ask it. It's such an elementary question, but I feel like it can be a pretty broad category. So what's paranormal?
Well, I think that's up to the person interpreting it for sure. But I just feel like it's any phenomena that is not the norm, right?
Outside of.
Right. Yeah. Outside of just being human, or because there are events that are unexplainable. I'm sure there's a definition for it. I'm like, you want to know what the exact definition of paranormal?
We're having conversation. That's part of what we get to do.
I just think it's like anything that goes further than our human understanding.
So it would be these phenomenon that defies a sort of normal explanation.
I would say so. I mean, they typically wrap up paranormal in a group of paranormal would be, most people think of ghosts, right? Hauntings right away. That's the first thing that I think most people would think of when they think of paranormal, because it's unexplained. But also Sasquatch is unexplained.
Right.
UFOs are unexplained.
Yes.
So I feel like it's like any activity that goes beyond our understanding as a human being. That's the best way I could explain it. How would you explain it?
I think that actually, I mean, if I think about just the language, para would be not, or I don't know exactly that Latin thing, but it's like outside of normal.
Yeah.
Or beyond.
Even like magic is paranormal, or mystical experiences are paranormal. I think it's a large range.
Right.
And it's up to the interpreter, because that may be normal for some people. Maybe some people hang out with magic or UFOs on the daily.
Maybe.
I kind of wish, but kind of not sure. It depends on what kind of anomalous creature, because some of them are kind of terrifying.
I would not want to meet some paranormal.
No, thank you. So our guest is actually like in the middle of this big, huge, massive wilderness, and I'm not sure what experiences he's had, but we'll find out. But he has like a reporting station, if you will, of people in the area, if they've had experiences, to come and share. because he owns this really cool shop in the middle of nowhere. It looks like in the middle of nowhere. The map looks like in the middle of nowhere. Actually, this is a place that my son wanted to go to before he joined the Army. Our guest
Oh,
is also a vet. So cool. Was in the Army. So much love for that.
yes.
And yeah, up in Washington, the territory that he spends his time in is called the supernatural capital of the Pacific Northwest.
Wow.
So I imagine with it being supernatural capital, there's more than one anomalous experience happening for people. There's probably many, many things. So we're going to hear all about that.
Forests are magical places or eerie places, or I did have this one experience so many years ago. It was so long ago. But we were looking for a campsite and we were just following on a map, and we went up in this mountain, and it did not feel good at all. There was like a, oh no, we can't stay here kind of thing. I don't know.
You weren't
But
welcome.
no.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like maybe a haunted like the mountain wasn't a massive, but it was like anywhere in that area. Mm-mm.
I have
We
had
kept
those same
driving.
experiences
Kept
out
driving.
in, I mean, we have beautiful mountains where we live. We are located in Utah. The mountains here are insane.
They are.
And plus, we have Skinwalker Ranch. Everyone knows about Skinwalker
Right.
Ranch, which is at the Uinta Basin. But up in the Uintas, I've spent most of my childhood in the Uintas, all over that place. And there are definitely places there you do not feel like you're alone, even though you do not see anything in sight, anyone in sight. There's definitely something going on. It's eerie.
Yes, that you're just like, I don't want to stay here.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just like, okay, we're going to keep on driving. It is not here.
Mm-hmm.
That was.
You're like, next site, let's go somewhere else.
Yes.
We got the memo.
Right.
Whoever's out there, we leave in peace.
That's right.
Do not follow us.
I would say that was unexplainable.
Mm-hmm. But I love hearing about these stories because these are people who are like out in the world, just doing their thing. And some are believers right away and looking for it. And some of them aren't and become believers because they can't deny their experience.
Yeah.
I just think that's exciting either way, right? Because it's expanding these humans' minds to think, hey, maybe we aren't alone, or I know we're not alone and I want to go find out what's out there.
Right. Some people want to go explore.
I like to hang out with the ones that like to explore. But that's what I did my whole life. My dad was always that way. So we were always in the mountains. I'm from Utah. Mountains. Or
the N's drop off in Utah language.
And the T's. Mountains.
Right.
And the desert. The desert is scariest for me. Like I have had more paranormal experiences out in the West Desert than anything up in the mountains.
Wow.
But we were also like camping out by ghost towns. So good times.
Well, there was a lot of things that happened out in the West.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lord knows.
Not all happy, good things either.
No.
So there's like quite a heavy history and energy that's out in some of those areas. And even to be even more morbid, because I'm a crime junkie, there's a lot of dead bodies out in the desert.
Where things go and the shovel digs in and it won't be found.
Yeah, or they do.
Oh.
I mean, I think that's anywhere, though. Unfortunately, we have those types of heavy energies in the world, too.
Well, there's been humans around this planet for a very long time, and humans aren't always nice to each other.
No, it's a shame. It's such a shame. Because we could come together like our guest has done and has brought people a safe place to share their experiences. A lot of people don't talk about that for years and years and years because they're either in shock or in denial. They don't believe that it happened, or they just think someone might think they're crazy for sharing. And so for them to have this safe place for them to go and report anything paranormal, that's pretty awesome.
I'm excited to hear all about it.
And I guess there's a lot of paranormal activity up there, which is, it's not just like UFO stuff. There's ghosts and portals and Sasquatch sightings and something I've never heard of. Clickety tat ape cat. Have you ever heard of that? In all of the times that I've done the show, almost 7 years, with all of the guests, I've never heard of this.
Clickety. Well,
it took me a minute too, Natalie, and I don't even know if I'm saying it right, but we'll find out after this break when we bring our guest on to share time with us. Stay close, everyone.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Friends, welcome back.
Welcome back.
I was going to adjust my mic before we did this.
Well,
it's kind of, I feel
those
like it's kind of low and I'm like talking like this so y'all can hear me.
Bring it up.
And our sweet Chanel will probably come fix it because I said that. But hi, welcome back.
She always is listening.
She is. See, she already wrote us.
Taking care of us.
I didn't think about it when she's like, do you guys need anything? And I was like, no.
Except for the mic adjusted.
And it keeps going away from me.
Usually mine is. Usually mine is like drifting, but
I am not a tech person. We all know this.
It's gotten better.
Yeah.
You're creative.
I did fix the printer in the shop today.
What?
Yeah, we have a receipt printer again.
Oh.
I was like, oh, girl, you good.
Good job.
The joys of owning your own shop and having to figure things out. It's so much fun. I think our guests will agree. So I want to bring them on. I'm just excited to hear all about
Let's
it.
do it.
Without further ado,
Tell us all about him.
Yes, our guest tonight is James Szubski, and he's a former volunteer search and rescue EMT, wildland firefighter, and a mountain guide who spends his time along the Columbia River Gorge in Washington State. He's a world-class paranormal adventure, he's not, but I'm sure he is because he has a shop that is. But the Columbia River Gorge is a world-class paranormal adventure destination. Tonight, James will find out how unprofessional I am, and we'll discuss the wide array of paranormal activity in the Columbia River Gorge, including, are you going to say it? The clickety tat ape cat.
Yeah.
The Click-a-tat ape cat.
There you go.
Oh,
there
yeah,
he
we'll
is.
let
Hi,
James say it.
Yeah, the Click-a-tat ape cat.
We'll let you tell us
You
all
just sound
about
like
your
you talk
adventures.
about it all the time.
And look, there's the map I was referring to, and his shop is right behind his noggin.
Yes,
Hi,
it is. Thank you
James.
for having me.
Welcome. We are so excited to have you. I personally really love hearing stories like this because I believe a lot of it is legit, but hearing other people have their experiences that I haven't had is pretty awesome. So
Right.
let's
Yeah,
hear all about you. Let's hear about you personally, and then we can hear about all the goodness you have to share.
Well, thank you very much for having me on, AJ and Natalie. I really appreciate it. Does my mic sound okay to you?
You sound great.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So my wife and I moved down to the Columbia River Gorge about a year ago, and the reason for that, we were living up in the Seattle area, and my mother-in-law, Margie, had a couple of businesses here in the Columbia River Gorge, and about 2 years ago, she passed away. She was an amazing woman, has a whole set of stories about her. But when she passed away, she left behind a couple of businesses, and someone had to come down to run those businesses. So I took up that mantle, and so for a year, I was commuting back and forth between Seattle and the Gorge, and then about a year ago, we bought a house. So the Gorge is about 60. Well, it's the border between Washington and Oregon. It's where my store is. It's in Klickitat County, which is about 60 miles east of Portland. So if people are getting a map in their head, you identify Portland. There's the Columbia River that's running along there. My stores are in Klickitat County. My home is in Stevenson, which is about 20 minutes to the west. And so Margie had, like I said, a couple of businesses. There was a store that she had that wasn't quite, she had started it when she was ill, and it really wasn't working well. Because of my outdoor experience, I thought, well, this is one of the most amazing outdoor adventure places in the world. And with my experience, I think I could do a pretty decent job of taking the store and morphing it into an outdoor store. So outdoor gear, climbing gear, rafting gear, all that kind of stuff. Well, it wasn't long before people started coming in and telling us pretty amazing stories. We were hearing stories about, of course, there's many, many Sasquatch stories. And I came to realize that, wow, like Sasquatch is not an uncommon experience here in the Gorge. Like a lot of people have had that experience, a lot of UFO stories. Now, on a personal level, I find this stuff really interesting. And, I think that there are, interesting sort of sensational aspects to it. You're seeing creatures that aren't recognized by science. But there's also some interesting spiritual elements to it. And that's kind of where my primary resonance point is. And so we put up a big sign in the window, and it said, file your paranormal reports here. Sasquatch sightings, portal openings, time anomalies, UFOs, ghosts. We want to hear about it. And I instructed all the employees. I said, people do have unusual experiences, and we want to be welcoming. We don't want to belittle them. We want to treat them like adults and take them seriously. If people come in and they're just having a good time, no harm, no foul. I mean, like, I'm not a scientist. We're not trying to run a scientific operation here. What we're trying to do is sort of understand this world that we live in and this incredible place. And so we always believe the witness. We ask intelligent follow-up questions. We make them feel welcome. And we don't try to insert our own thoughts about what they might have seen onto their experience. So we're taking in the data. And when we first started doing it, I really didn't know what we were going to do with the information. I felt like, if we just let's get started and see what happens. And so it has been an amazing journey. And just to give your listeners a little bit of a preview, yes, we're going to be talking about Sasquatch encounters. We'll be talking about UFOs. We'll be talking about glowing orbs. We'll be talking about portals, both physical openings in the world and seemingly shimmering portals that lead to other places. We definitely have UFO experiences. We have small humanoid experiences out here. And what has become clear to me, so we've been doing this almost a year and a half now. We've had close to 160 reports.
Wow.
A lot of folks will come into the store, excuse me, and we have some forms for people to fill out. Most people prefer just to give an oral report, explain to me or my staff what they've experienced. Just recently on our website, we enabled the ability for people to file reports online. So if you go to margiesoutdoorstore.com and you go to the paranormal section, there's a report filing function there. But, it's there's not a lot of people that live in the gorge. It's 80 miles long. There's probably 70,000 people that live here. And, we're doing something kind of unusual, and a lot of people have come to recognize me. And it's not uncommon for me to get stopped in the grocery store and someone to relay an experience to me. And I want to say at the beginning, it has been one of the most wonderful, joyful, amazing experiences. I had really no idea just how interesting and fun it was going to be. If you could imagine, like a couple times a week, a Scooby-Doo mystery walks through my front door, and and when I hire new folks to work in the store, I'm always like leery, and I have to tell you this thing that we're doing, and this is how we approach it. And to a person, everyone is excited. It's like their favorite part of their job. Like I said, it's a small community, and so people get to know each other. And to hear these stories, I think that's the thing that's been most remarkable to me. What I didn't expect was the real human connection that we make with folks. When someone has had an unusual experience and they may have mentioned it or brought up the topic with people and there's nervous laughter or outright derision, they clam up and they hold these experiences inside of themselves, and they don't know where to go with them or what to do with them or who to talk to about it, just even process it. And there have been so many times when someone has relayed an experience to me, and there's been this beautiful human connection with this person, and they're finally getting something off their chest that they have been holding in sometimes for years. And to be able to talk to somebody and to be believed and to be understood and to be intelligently questioned about it, that leads to these deeper conversations and some very personal conversations as well. And to me, that's been one of the most beautiful and joyful parts of this experience. And trust me, not what I was expecting when we started, but one of the really cool side effects of it.
I love that. I love that someone has a safe place to go to share the experiences, because they're probably thinking all sorts of probably negative things about their experience most of the time. Like they're in fear, no one's going to believe them, or they're not going to have validation. They're not feeling safe, or whatever that looks like. And to have some place to go to express their feelings and their experiences is really awesome. First of all, kudos to you. But I love the interaction. That's what we do. Like I own a healing center. It's a metaphysical shop and healing center. We have some of the same products, by the way, you and I. And I noticed on your website. And it's really neat when someone comes in and starts sharing their experiences. Most of ours is like, hey, do I have like an attachment or a ghost next to me or something like that? But same, because it opens the door to opportunity for deeper conversations. And that's where the magic happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it might be helpful for me to set the stage and sort of give a little bit of a description of what the Columbia River Gorge is and what we're talking about, just so your listeners can get an idea of where I'm at and some of the clues that I think may explain why we are so over-indexing on paranormal experiences.
We love
So,
story time, James. The floor is yours.
so the Columbia River itself is the second largest river in the United States, and it is the largest river in North and South America that empties into the Pacific. And so it um, it is been around. They estimate for about 20 million years, and I'm sure folks like you will understand that that is an extremely persistent energy flow. If you can just imagine that something has existed and has been moving for in the same direction for that many millions of years, like that is a pattern. You know, on the physical realm, obviously, but also as you go up the spiritual realms, from the etheric to astral to mental, spiritual realms, like as above, so below. And so this river has been this consistent flow for a very, very long time. And so that's one thing to understand, is that there's an incredible movement of energy here. And my wife is a yoga instructor. And when we first were thinking about moving down here and were understanding what was happening with Margie and how our lives might be changing, she would spend time in, hotels, taking care of her mother. And she relayed to me this story that she was like in an outdoor pool, and she was right next to the river at a hotel, and she could just literally feel the current of energy. And so it's the river, it's also the winds that blow through the gorge, it's the transportation corridor that the gorge forms. But even people who have no history of being spiritually sensitive at all, if you stop and slow down for just a moment, you feel this incredible current of energy moving through here. So the river is really what sets the stage for everything else. So that happened 20 million years ago. Then, about 15 million years ago, these great fissures opened in the earth near the Idaho-Washington border, and enormous fountains of lava started erupting from deep within the earth. It's unlike the lava that forms the Cascade Mountains, like Mount St. Helens and the other volcanoes that are here. This is that sort of ropey red lava that you see in Hawaii. And unfathomable quantities of lava were erupting out of the earth there. Geologists still don't know what caused it or what started it or where it actually comes from. But it was so immense that it flowed over 300 miles down the ancient Columbia River Valley, filling it up all the way to the ocean. So it's 300 miles of lava. And they believe that for about 6 million years, there were over 300 eruptive episodes where this lava was coming up and formed layer upon layer upon layer of lava, which cooled into basalt. Basalt forms those gorgeous hexagonal columns. Maybe you've seen like the Causeway of the Gods in over in England. But so in some places, this lava is 3 miles thick. If you spread it out evenly over the entire United States would be buried 60 feet deep in lava, just to give you a sense of scope and scale. Now, what's amazing is that there were these 300 eruptive events, and each time the lava cooled, the iron grains within the rock were oriented towards where the magnetic north was at that time. So each stratification of the lava rock has a different magnetic orientation because the Earth's poles have moved over the millions of years. And so literally, like, you will see the grains oriented in a whole series of different directions. And that's going to become an important fact as we go forward, talking about why we have such unusual experiences going on here. So we've set the stage with this river that's been here, and then this incredible lava flows that happened. And then approximately 5 to 2 million years ago, the Cascade Mountains started emerging. And so this is a geologic process known as subduction. And so the North American continent is sliding over the Pacific plates, basically. And it's creating these great stratovolcanoes. And within 40 miles of my store, there are 3 stratovolcanoes that are over 10,000 feet tall. And they are perpetually glacier clad all year long. And so Mount St. Helens, which famously erupted in 1980, above my head here in the picture is Mount Adams, which is a very famous UFO hotspot. And right where my heart is Mount Hood. Also in the Cascade Mountains, we have famous peaks like Mount Rainier and Mount Shasta, Mount Rainier being 14,400 feet tall. And so we have this incredible, you've got the vertical energy flow of the river, and then you've got this incredible, you have the horizontal flow of the river, and then this incredible uh, vertical energy rising, lifting up mountains and moving the earth in that direction. So they're perpendicular to each other. And of course, there's a whole eruptive story that goes on with each of these mountains. There are eruptions and lava fields, and there are lava tubes all over the place, caves and things of that nature. And so this process is continuing today. And, Mount St. Helens in 1980, the Mount Hood was erupting in the 1800s. And so it is a living landscape. And then 15 to 12,000 years ago, people were here. And so we're now in the age of human habitation of North America, and we had the Great Missoula floods. And so what they believe happened was that these glacial lakes formed in Montana, and they were dammed by ice, and this lake was as large as all the Great Lakes combined. In a single day, that dam broke and emptied the entire contents of all the Great Lakes across Washington state. Your listeners may be familiar with the work of Graham Hancock or Randall Carlson, who talk about these Younger Dryas catastrophes, these great apocalyptic floods that occurred. And it created the channeled scablands in eastern Washington. So this is these incredible forms that were scoured by this flood that was the greatest flood for which we have geologic evidence on Earth. They estimate that the river flow was as great as all of the rivers on Earth combined times 10. So we are talking about a massive, massive flow that created these enormous geological features that can only be created by water at that epic scale. And there are, enormous current ripples in eastern Washington. Well, all of that water fills up on eastern Washington. It wants to escape to the ocean. And the only way it can get there is through the Columbia River Gorge. And so it gets backed up at this spot called Wallula Gap, which sort of forms the eastern end of the gorge. And then it rockets down the gorge. And it is carrying, so this is water that is in some places over 1,200 feet deep. And it is carrying enormous icebergs and rocks, and it's plucking, it's removing all the soil. It is literally reshaping the earth. Now you have to understand that, before the Younger Dryas catastrophe event, which was about 12,000 years ago, sea levels were 400 feet lower than they are today. And when this event occurred, 90% of the megafauna on North and South America went extinct. And by megafauna, I'm talking about things like mammoths and woolly rhinoceroses, and even a thing called the Panthera atrox, which was a giant American lion. And so all of these creatures go extinct during this flood event, but as it's rocketing through the gorge, it is removing any kind of topsoil, anything that's not bare rock. And so the gorge is formed, and it creates the most stunningly beautiful landscape that you can possibly imagine. There are more than 90 waterfalls here in the gorge, and some of them are over 600 feet tall. The mountains themselves, they will rise within a half a mile from basically sea level. The river is the only sea level passage through the Cascade Mountains, and I think it's the only place on Earth where there is a sea level river flowing through a mountain range where the peaks are over 14,000 feet tall. But within just a half a mile from that sea level riverbed, you've got mountains that are 3,000 feet tall. And so it is stunningly beautiful, but those mountain range forms a rain shadow. So if you're looking at the map behind me, you can see Washington State. There's the river sort of going horizontally right across the page there. Everything to the west of the mountains is rainforest. So Pacific Northwest rainforest sees over 100 inches of rain a year. And my house is in Stevenson. We're on the wet side. It's a stunningly beautiful place. And then you get to the eastern half, and it is desert, where there's less than 10 inches of rain per year. And so when I get up in the morning, I start my commute in the rainforest, and I drive 25 minutes, and I make it to the edge of the desert. And so and through one of the most beautiful landscapes in the world. Now, it's not just me saying that because I live here and I love the place. In the 1980s, the United States government named the Columbia River Gorge a national scenic area. It was the first place in America that they gave this designation to. And basically, it protects this land from overdevelopment, and it recognizes there are things of incredible beauty here which should be preserved. And so there are things here that, are almost impossible to imagine. And these beautiful tall cliff faces that are on an inhuman scale with beautiful columns. The sunrises are stunning. You can see for miles up and down the gorge in either direction. The snow-clad mountains are all around. And for a guy like me who has spent my life adventuring, I was an infantry soldier, a wildland force firefighter, a mountain guide, search and rescue EMT. This is like heaven. Like I couldn't find a more amazing place to live and to work than a place like this. And then you layer in this paranormal aspect to it, and it is truly an enchanted, magical landscape. Like people see things here and have experiences here that are beyond what you'd expect in just your normal, everyday physical world. And to me, it fills my heart with joy. There's a place that's right over my shoulder here called Horse Thief Butte, and it's basically it looks like a desert mesa, right? So it has flat top, steep cliff walls, but because of the floods, it is riddled with a labyrinth of hidden passageways and amphitheaters. There are petroglyphs on the walls, and you can get in there, and immediately you get this sense that it's a profoundly spiritually powerful place. And it's not just me saying that. The original inhabitants clearly had ceremonies here, like their paintings on the rock are indicating that. I brought my daughter there. She was probably 6 or 7 at the time, and I was showing her around. It's a place that I came down to the gorge and started adventuring here in the 1980s as a soldier. When we'd get a weekend pass, me and my buddies would come down here, go rock climbing and whitewater rafting, that kind of stuff. And so I knew about this place. And this time Margie was still alive and we were visiting, and I took her out for a little adventure. And she was running up and down these rocks and just saying, "Thank you, God. Thank you, God." We're not a religious family. I don't know where this came from, but she was just so overjoyed to be in such an amazing place. And you can climb up on top of Horse Thief Butte, and you get this commanding view of the river, and you can see Mount Hood, which is like a perfectly conical mountain that's snow-capped. And as a parent, there are very few moments when this is a winner. This is one of those moments that I'm going to remember, a perfect, father-daughter moment. And that was one of them. But even she, as a child, was clearly recognizing that this is a place of incredible beauty and intense magic. And so this is the place where all this is going on. This place where we have this really complicated geological story, and there are many energetic eddies and backwaters and currents. You've got like Mount Adams, which is above my head there, and 2 rivers flow off of that, the White Salmon River and the Klickitat River. They form these gorgeous canyons. One is a rainforest canyon, the other is a desert canyon. And so you've got these types of features here, and then from Mount Hood, it's got rivers. The Hood River flows off of there. And so where my store is basically where my ear is, or my microphone is. And it's really X marks the spot, because this is where you've got the Columbia River flowing through, and then you've got the rivers flowing off of the mountains, and it creates this sort of nexus of energy. Now, it's easy for folks like you and I to talk about and understand what I mean when I say there's an energetic flow here, and you can feel this energetic flow on an intuitive level. But here, it's not just that sort of what some people might call a woo-woo experience. It is like hard engineering, because there are 14 hydroelectric dams on the Columbia River. And the Columbia River produces 44% of all the hydroelectric power in the United States of America. It generates enough energy as they capture the river and refocus the energy and turn it into electricity to power the city of Seattle and 7 more cities of its size. So
Wow.
we are literally talking about a flow of energy that can be captured, harnessed, and redirected, and then turned into a system or an engineering feat that we understand as humans. You know, when Benjamin Franklin in 1752, his neighbors must have thought he was a complete nut job. He's out in a lightning storm flying a kite, right? And at that point, electricity was magic, sorcery. No one really understood what it was. And here's this whack-a job out there, you know, trying to capture it in a bottle with a key and a, you know, metal string. It's like, what are you doing? You're nuts. And when I think about paranormal stuff, to me, what we're talking about are things that seem to defy the laws of nature as we currently understand them. But I think what's going on here is that these things which seem like magic are just phenomenon that we don't fully understand yet. And, you know, we're going to talk about creatures that seem impossible in a few minutes. But when you look at the very earliest expressions of human thought, so we're talking about the cave paintings in Lascaux, France, or the figurines that were carved out of mammoth tusks in caves found in Germany, they're depicting creatures that are impossible. They're depicting therianthropes or human-animal hybrids, things that can't possibly exist by the laws of nature. But from day one, 40,000 years ago, from the moment that humans are able to record their thoughts, we are talking about things that are impossible. We're talking about things that shouldn't exist if you're buying the line that physical-only scientists are trying to sell us. And when you look at every culture on every continent where human beings have existed, you see again this pattern of impossible creatures. And it's not, you know, the superstitious or the stupid people in each of these cultures. It's the Egyptian pharaohs. These are the leaders of the society that are making effigies of creatures that have human bodies and animal heads. You're talking about the shaman. These are the most sophisticated thinkers of these communities. You're talking about in South America, the leaders of those communities are, they got their jaguar gods. And so even today, our most advanced astrophysicists are looking at things like hidden dimensions, multiverses, pocket dimensions. They're not throwing that away. And I'm really thankful in many ways that the U.S. government is starting to recognize with the naval footage of UFOs that this is a phenomenon that we need to study seriously. And they've got the best people at NASA working on this problem. And so I think like when you get it is a very durable and enduring interest for human beings. And I look at like in a society, you got the best and the brightest, and they're like, okay, we're gonna explore this. And then you've got the masses of people like me who are just like, this is really cool. We intuitively know that there's something there. I mean, I'm no astrophysicist, but we intuitively understand that something is there. And so we want to believe it. And then there is this really actually a very small percentage of people with their arms folded. And to me, they're a lot like know-it-all teenagers who are arrogant in their thinking and who simply can't be, I haven't experienced it myself, so it can't possibly be real. I know everything. And to me, that's a rather immature, kind of childish view of the world. And I think it's far more wise and humble to say, well, science has gotten us a lot, but it hasn't explained everything. There may be things we still don't understand. So let's not close the door on this phenomenon, which have been experienced as long as we've been humans. Like as long as there have been people thinking, we've been thinking about this. And so yeah, that's a little bit about my thoughts on the gorge. But
we've never been alone.
Nope.
Yeah.
You gave us an epic idea of the area in which you're surrounded by. And I was Googling images where you're at while you were doing that. It is breathtaking. And I'm sure the photos don't do it justice. So when we get back, we'll learn about these impossible creatures. So stay close, everyone.
Hey members, the new KGRA DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA DB.
Did you know 75% of Americans are chronically dehydrated? If you struggle with focus, run low on energy, or when it's time to finally sleep, you simply can't, this can all be linked to dehydration, and Fuel Up has the answer. Our proprietary formula contains the finest cellular hydration with the strongest immune-enhancing natural ingredients. The Fuel Up system is made up of 3 different incredibly tasting varieties. Wake kickstarts your day with a jolt of caffeine. Play boosts focus while hydrating your cells. Rest not only helps you relax, but also rejuvenates your cells while you sleep. Here's what our clients have to say.
I really don't miss my coffee, and you can tell the difference.
So I'm going to take it for the energy. I'm going to take it for the play. I'm going to take it, all day.
And it works. That's the thing. It works. We love it.
Take the Fuel Up Challenge now, where we offer a Feel the Difference money-back guarantee. Fuel Up for life.
You're listening to the KGRA Digital Broadcasting Network. We provide unparalleled coverage of trending news in the world of ufology, cryptozoology, and paranormal phenomenon. Whether you're watching our video live stream or listening to one of our audio programs, you are getting the best from world-renowned researchers and hosts, guiding you through topics the mainstream won't touch. Miss one of your favorite programs? No problem. Head over to the members area at kgradb.com for access to our massive library of award-winning content. Make contact, stay connected, only at kgradb.com.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Soul Wanderings. I am AJ.
And I am Natalie.
And we are heard here on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. If you're listening live, you can find us on Facebook, Rumble, or on KGRA DB. And if you want to listen to the replay, which I'm sure you will, because we're going to learn so much tonight.
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
You'll be able to find us on all the platforms that you listen to your favorite shows on, as well as soulwanderings.com. And we are hanging out with James tonight. He's a beautiful storyteller. I have a pretty good envision of what's going on in his area. I would be safe to say you could easily get lost. Get lost in the wilderness.
I am a professionally trained expert land navigator. So with all those things that I've done, and what people, we hear a lot about, well, why haven't we found a Bigfoot body? Well, so the Cascade Mountains, they start in lower British Columbia. They extend to Northern California. They encompass about 80,000 square miles. That is like larger than the 10 smallest states in the country combined. It's about the size of the island of Britain. And it is some of the most rugged and intense wilderness in the world. There's a place that's right over this shoulder. Yeah, this one. And it's an old lava flow. And this area is maybe 10, 15 minutes from my house. And it is an area the size of the island of Manhattan. And basically, it is this jumble of sort of sharp, jagged rocks with micro canyons and overgrown with moss and trees. And compasses don't work there. A magnetic compass will absolutely fail you. And I look at a place like that, and I have traveled through, glaciers and jungles and deserts and forests, and you name it, I've done it. And I look at that place and it's like, geez, I don't know that I could walk through there for a mile and not hurt myself. Like, it is so incredibly rugged. And, I've been on evidence searches with my search and rescue team, and it'll take 40 people a weekend to search an area 300 yards by 300 yards. Um, and that's something that's right next to the road.
Mhm.
When people talk about why haven't they found Bigfoot, they have no idea of the scope and scale of the territory that you'd be searching, and how even if every adult in America was searching, you couldn't possibly search this in any kind of reasonable amount of time. And so the answer to your question, could you get lost out here? Yes,
Yes.
you absolutely could. It is a place where, I once we started getting a lot of reports, I have a FJ Cruiser 4x4, and so I put a bunch of cameras on it. It's probably got 5 cameras and drones and headlamps and everything. And my daughter loves being dropped off in school in it because it's super cool. It's got these logos that say "Click a 10 research vehicle" on it. But
Nice.
it's got a lot of gear. It's got winches and traction boards and a lot of recovery stuff, because when I drive 5 minutes from my house, I can be on thousands of miles of dirt road and going through some of the most incredible territory, both in the mountains, the forests, and in the desert. And so the things that can hide out here and never be found, even if they are simply exotic, mundane creatures, the ability for things to disappear out here is incredible. So,
I would imagine so. But also, not only be lost, there's a lot of things that can be found.
yeah, and that's where the fun comes in, right? So, like I said, we get a lot of Sasquatch reports, and in fact, the county where I'm in, Skamania County, in the 1960s, there were so many Sasquatch sightings that the residents were concerned that someone was going to get shot, and so they outlawed hunting Bigfoot. And if you hunt and injure or kill Bigfoot here in Skamania County, you will go to jail and you will pay thousands of dollars in fines. And what struck me, as a transplant from Seattle, I mean, I've been in the Pacific Northwest for 30 years, and but to move down here, so in Seattle, it's like 4,000 to 5,000 people per square mile. Here, it is 10 people per square mile. So it's a really different kind of a culture. And
Mhm.
what I came to learn, and then really start to, once I sort of settled into it, really start to love, is that everybody here either has a neighbor or has themselves seen Sasquatch or a UFO or something like that. It is kind of akin to like, oh, I saw a bear today. It's like, oh, I saw a Sasquatch today. And I was really enjoying like how this is sort of what makes the culture of this place unique, is that this is not like incredibly uncommon out here. And so it was funny because it was on Memorial Day weekend, Monday night, a week and a half ago, right? I was out in the garage. The garage door was open. I was working on the 4x4, and then I started hearing this animal vocalization a couple hundred yards from the house to the forest. My house is about a mile from the river and at an elevation of 800 feet, and so we're really lucky because we have views of the river, and it's a pretty neat place. And I was like, what in the heck is that? And it was going on for like 15 minutes, a big animal. And, we see elk here all the time. And I thought, that's got to be at least as big as an elk, because you'd have to be an 800 to 1,000 pound creature to be making a noise that, voluminous. And I thought, well, maybe it's like an elk in rut bugling or something like that. So I called out my daughter. She's 9 years old now. And I said, hey, Evelyn, I think there's something out there. What do you think? And she's listening. She's like, and she heard it too. And she said, Dad, I'm pretty sure that's a squatch. I was like, are you sure? We better get Mom. So we called out my wife, and we're all standing in the garage, listening out the garage door, and we hear the vocalizations, these deep sort of like almost like shouting noises. And then we hear the vocalizations on one area, and then in another area with this knocking of sticks. So knock, 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 3 knocks, wood on wood. And then we hear the vocalizations, and again, knock, knock, knock. And about 5 different times we hear the vocalization and the knocking. And I know from my research that wood knocking or stick knocking is a classic trait of a Sasquatch encounter. And so we told him, well, it's probably an elk bugling. And so we put Evelyn to bed, and we quickly Googled elk bugling because it didn't seem like that was right. And it sounded nothing like elk. Elk have got this high-pitched whistle and squeal to it. It said none of that. And so then we Googled Sasquatch, alleged Sasquatch vocalizations, and it was spot on. And I was like, geez, we didn't even have to leave our house to have, a Sasquatch experience, like basically in our backyard here. And what I find amazing is that it's, like I said, it's so common. We've had folks come in with, hundreds of hair samples and ones that have seen mother squatches and baby squatches. And they tell us that the babies have fur when the adults have hair. Some that are up to 13 feet tall, standing in blackberry bushes. There are stories that have come to the store of that there are actual treaties with the Native Americans who live here and the Sasquatches for berry picking areas and mushroom harvesting areas and salmon gathering areas. And so this is like a part of the world here. And there's some debate, even people who come in and see them a lot of folks say it has all the characteristics of just a biological creature, but then there are some mysterious elements to it too. One of the guys who's certain that it's a biological creature also says they also seem to have the ability to teleport. So one will be moving away from him, and he's got an area on his property where it's sort of like a pinch point where the creatures apparently have to come through to get to some other area. And he says that they seem to be able to like move 50 yards at a time at a single jump. And so they'll be walking away, and then they'll be 50 yards away and 50 yards away. We have reports around the power lines around here. And so with all the hydroelectric activity, there are many high-tension power lines in the area. And so there is this incredible electrical current that's happening here in a lot of different places. And we've had a lot of reports that along those power line routes, people have seen squatches. And so that is, like I said, one of the most common things that we hear about. And to me, it's just interesting and amazing to think that there is so many people having a similar experience. So, I talked earlier about this notion that there is this complicated magnetic story going on at the rocks, and those rocks are now cliffs because they've been exposed to those floods. So the floods scoured away all of the debris and all of the dirt and everything. And so you've got these magnificent, in some places, 500, 600 foot tall cliffs. Some places they're 1,000 feet tall. And the layers are exposed. And so you've got this interesting magnetic thing going on there. You've got those high power tension lines. You've got the flow of the river. And I have seen studies where electromagnetism properly induced in the brain in small, very small amounts can induce spiritual experiences or what the scientific report says are hallucinations of actual beings, fully consistent, things that appear to be there but aren't physically, you can't physically touch them. And so when I hear this notion that they're hallucinations, I've got a lot of questions from a scientific perspective. So if there is a stimulus that is inducing a response within a population, and that response is the same. In this case, we're saying when people have maybe a certain electromagnetic influence on their brain, they see a Sasquatch. In order for that to be true from a scientific perspective, there has to be an evolutionary advantage to that experience, right? Like, there's no reason for us to have evolved to see Sasquatches when there's an electrical influence unless it is an advantage to our survival and reproduction. And no one has ever explained that. To me, what makes more sense is that when you have those electromagnetic influences on your brain, your perception shifts from channel normal, which is our everyday experience of the world, to an adjacent perception. And you're able to see things that you don't normally see, but are still independent actual realities. And so to me, like, that's one of my operating theories about what's going on out here, is that there's something about the either electromagnetism of the area, or it might be the terpenes or the chemicals released by the endemic and indigenous plant life that under certain circumstances induces the ability to switch your perception to an alternate or adjacent channel of perception. I don't know, and I'm not a
Very
scientist,
interesting.
but to me, like, I want to make sense of the world, and it feels like a very magical experience. Like, just the other day I was coming home and I stopped at an island, and it's easily accessible in the river, and the air was just perfumed with wildflowers. And right now the gorge is splashed with wildflowers everywhere. We have species of plants here that don't live anywhere else in the world. And because of our complicated geology and geography, there are like these biological niches that are here. And so we have creatures and plants that you won't find anywhere else in the world. And when I look at places like Broke Leg Burrows, which are so incredibly difficult for a human being to navigate through, it is also very believable to me that yes, there are populations of creatures here that don't exist in other places or are not yet recognized by science, but they're, so there's the electromagnetic perceiving strange things theory. There's also the theory that there are pockets of habitat that are providing home for creatures that aren't found anywhere else. My daughter, we were driving the FJ. This was maybe 5 minutes from the house, and we had to pull over because another vehicle was coming the other way. And she looked out the window and said, "Oh, Dad, I see a snake! I see a snake!" And so, "Oh, that's pretty cool." She said, "It's really big. It was like 3 feet long, and it had frills on the side of its head, like fins on the side of its head." And I thought, well, tell me more about these fins. And she was very clear. She had how the colors gradated from a reddish color down to a yellowish color that were attached by its ears. It had like these 5 little spines that were webbed up between them. And I said, I didn't tell her, but I am pretty sure that there are no snakes in North America that have frills on the side of their head. And then, so I did the research. And in fact, there are no snakes, lizards, or anything that has frills on the side of its head in North America. But for my daughter, it was just, oh, here's a creature that's hanging out by the side of the dirt road that we were driving on. And so, we have a lot of it was maybe, in fact, this is when I converted my FJ into a cryptid hunting vehicle. I had, because got all these spotlights on it. I mean, honestly, it's a little bit of
I like that so much.
But I had heard there's this place called Monster Mountain. It's in the Monte Cristo Natural Preserve. This is maybe 5 miles from the store. And so there are many, many reports of Sasquatches up in this area. And there are vocalizations where it sounded like these people were panning for gold up there. And they heard 4 different individuals. It seemed like they're having a conversation about the people who were there, coming from different directions. And each of these different voices seem to have different personalities. There's stories of people having rocks thrown in their direction, and other stories of creatures like tracking people on a parallel path to the way they were traveling. This is a real big hotspot. I got really excited. And so I took my 4x4 up there and was going up through these dirt roads, and son of a gun, I see a black bobcat on the road. And now we have had reports of black bobcats before, but of course I couldn't get my phone out in time to take a picture of it. And now my rig has got there's 5 cameras on it. So I'm ready for this moment.
You learned your lesson.
Yeah. So a black bobcat is recognized by science, but in the United States, in the history of the United States, there are only 20 documented cases of a black bobcat. And in the past year and a half, I have had one, and some of the people who frequent my store have seen 2 of them simultaneously sitting at picnic benches by the river. So we also have had stories of, I've seen myself, black wild rabbits, which is, again, not impossible, but very unusual to see a black wild rabbit. And so it may be something about our geology and our geography where we've got these isolated populations and they're expressing a melanistic trait, making them black. But the one story that really got me was this Klickitat ape cat that we had mentioned earlier in the show. So it was late one evening. I was in the store behind the counter, and a gentleman came in. He knew Margie really, really well. Margie was a pharmacist, and so she had helped his family with some type of medical issue that they had. And it took him about 45 minutes to work up the courage to tell him the story, but he said that he was orienteering out near Buck Creek. And for folks who don't know, orienteering is when you're map and compass and you're finding points in the forest. It's, kind of a wilderness sport. And he said the compass started acting strange, and he could see the needle like moving, even though his hand was stationary. And so very shortly thereafter, he looked up, and across the creek, he saw an enormous cat with black fur. And he said that he spent about 5 minutes looking at this thing. He described it as a very muscular animal with fur that was 3 to 4 inches long, a very long black tail, large head, and he said that it stood 4 to 5 feet tall at the shoulder. So at this point in the story, all kinds of flags are going off for me. Of course, we have cougar out here in the Columbia River Gorge. They really don't mess with people for the most part. They're afraid of humans, and they will flee at the sound of like even a radio. Human voices terrify cougars, and so they always take off. So first of all, you've got a cougar who is not afraid of a human being. That's a clue that we're dealing with something unusual. Second, it's got black fur. So cougars are never supposed to be black. They're either tan or they go to a reddish color when they get dark. All the wildlife biologists we've talked to say that there are no such thing as black cougars in the Pacific Northwest or anywhere else in America for that matter. And then you've got this question of the size. So a creature that is 4 to 5 feet tall at the shoulder, normally a cougar is going to max out around 2 feet tall at the shoulder. Tigers, maybe 3 feet, and tigers are the largest cat on the planet that's recognized by science. There is no cat that is living today that is 4 to 5 feet tall at the shoulder. There is one creature in the fossil record that does match that. It's that Panthera atrox, the American lion. So this was an Ice Age creature that absolutely lived in Washington State. There's tons of fossil evidence. They found 80 skeletons in the La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles. And so this is an animal that's really well known to science. And this creature's frame, it stood 4 feet tall at the shoulder. It is larger than an African lion, larger than a tiger. And in fact, it's got the largest brain case of any cat that has ever existed in the fossil record. And that's the only animal that matches a creature of that stature. And so in the back of my mind, I'm sort of like trying to process all this, like, what is he telling me? And then he said, and James, the strangest thing, it had a face that looked like a monkey. And I said, could you say that again? He said, yeah, it had intelligent ape-like eyes, its snout was flat, and it looked like a monkey. And so I pressed him on, some more details. And of course, I'm not trying to pressure the witnesses, but I want to get as much data as I can. And he was very earnest and a friend of the family. And there are some things that we do to, sort of check the veracity of people. There are tells that people have when they're making up stories. And this guy checked all the boxes for someone who had genuinely experienced what he was describing. And I thought, this is fascinating. This is amazing. He said that he knew that he was having a special experience. He felt like he was in the presence of something magical. And then this creature, after about 5 minutes of them observing each other, it turned and disappeared into the forest. And I thought, wow, that is one of the coolest stories. I had never heard of anything like that before in my life. Well, the next day, I went in and I told my staff about it. And so there's a number of people that work for all the different businesses that we have. And Missy is a delightful young lady. And she's as honest as the day is long. And she doesn't even like to tell or play practical jokes on her coworkers because that's a little bit like lying and that's not really cool for her. So anyway, I was describing this report that we had received and Missy started shaking. And I was like, what's going on here? And she said, James, I've seen that creature myself. I was driving down Klickitat Canyon at sunrise one morning about 2 or 3 years ago, and I saw it walking along the side of the road. Now, she didn't get a look at its face, but she said, yeah, I saw this enormous black cat with a long black tail. And so she even stopped her car to watch it. And she said that it entered into a small patch of tall grass, and she waited and waited, and it never came out the other side. And she eventually, after waiting there for 15 minutes, got out of her car, and she was thinking maybe she would warn the houses nearby, and she was trying to get a look at it, and the cat was nowhere to be found. And so with those two reports, so this friend of the family with a very credible report, and this employee who I've known for a long time, no reason to lie, and having a clear emotional response to the story, I thought, well, there's something here. And so, of course, we have, a radio advertising budget. And so I started putting up radio ads. Has anyone seen a big black cat? And I put up, flyers at the trailheads. And sure enough, we started getting reports. And in the past year and a half, we received close to 60 reports about an enormous black panther creature. Now, of those 50 reports, we've had all of them describe a big muscular cat with a long tail. About half of them say that the creature is 4 to 5 feet tall at the shoulder. And just a handful of them say that the creature has a flattened face that looks like a monkey. One of those reports came from a wildland forest fighter chief who I met, and she and her crew were out between St. Helens and Adams in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest doing some wildland forest firefighting. And they encountered that creature on the first night, and they had 3 more nights there, and they were wondering what they were going to do if it ever came back. And so she was really fascinated about the story and wanted to know more. And, as a former wildland forest fighter myself, there's sort of a lingo and a non-BS kind of a way of communicating. I mean, a wildland forest firefighter is probably one of the most savvy and sophisticated wilderness workers that there are. They're dropped off in remote areas, they're left to fend for themselves, and they've got the complication of putting out a giant fire, right? And so folks who do that have got their wilderness act together, right? And she said, yeah, we have seen a lot of strange things, but that cat was the one that freaked us out the most. Mm-hmm. So very interesting to me. We also had another story about a guy who was, again, up near Buck Creek. So this is close to where the original report came from. He was working on the project in an outbuilding, and he saw the big cat, black cat, show up, and he actually started filming it. And there's footage of this up on the website under the Klickitat Ape Cat section.
I just shared it for all of you listening. I just shared it on our Facebook and Rumble pages.
Yeah. And so, and he said that as he was watching the creature, he pulled out his phone to videotape it. And don't get excited about this videotape. It's really just the creature's eyes blinking and some vocalizations. But what's interesting is that he said that he pulled out his camera, and then within 7 seconds of him starting to film this creature, the batteries in his phone and his headlamp died simultaneously.
Of course.
So, yeah. And so can I tell you if this is a paranormal creature? Well, no, I can't guarantee that. It seems to have a constellation of effects that are paranormal in nature. It's got this, seems to have an effect on electromagnetic devices like compasses and batteries. Mm-hmm. It seems to defy the laws of nature as we currently understand them. Its size and its coloration and its face are not recognized by science. Mm-hmm. It seems to have vanishing abilities where you see it and then you don't see it. Very common with paranormal experiences. Mm-hmm. People have the sense that they're in the presence of something special. So all of this is interesting. None of it is conclusive. And to me, that's part of the joy of this whole process, is that this is like, I was like, wow, this is, again, one of these bona fide Scooby-Doo mysteries come walking through my door. And we have these really, really interesting things going on. And so you've never heard of a Klickitat ape cat because basically most of the sightings that we've had are here in Klickitat County. And so that's the name that I gave this creature.
What's the demeanor of this creature? You say that some people, I even saw on your website, some people say it's a magical experience. Some people have been afraid of it, but what's the energy?
So like? Reports go back 30 years, maybe even 40 years. And in that time, there have been no hostile encounters. And to me, that's a really, thank God, right? there's a giant
Right? Could you
5 foot tall
imagine?
cat running around, that could be problematic. And we haven't had any, obviously, uh, cougar attack livestock, and we wouldn't know the difference if it was a cougar that attacked livestock or this creature, right? We've had reports that it has, one guy saw it in his driveway with a baby, so a little black kitten along with it. I've had senior law enforcement officials say that they saw it when they were 14 years old and it was in a tree. So no hostile encounters. I've done a lot of research on Black Panthers. What do they mean on a spiritual, symbolic level, those kind of things.
Mhm.
The Native Americans of the Great Lakes area have stories about a race of supernatural panther protectors. These creatures are called the Mishepeshu. They clearly have a foot in the spirit world and then in the physical world. And some descriptions of the Mishepeshu are that they look like a panther with the face of a man. And I thought, geez, that's kind of exactly what we're talking about here. And about 20 minutes east of the store, right by that Horse Thief Butte where my daughter was having such a spiritual experience, there's a whole set of petroglyphs. And one of them looks like a cat with wavy water lines under its head. And so it may be a part of the traditions that have been going on here for many, many years. But in pretty much every culture around the world, when they talk about Black Panthers, it is always seen as a protector creature. And that's a story that I like. Even Christians in medieval Europe consider the Black Panther to be the most holy and divine of all creatures. And it was beloved by all creatures except for the dragon, which was terrified of it. And so, again, we may be just dealing with a black cougar out here, and it may have no spiritual protective powers. But so far, fingers crossed, and thank God, we've had no negative interactions. Many people, their interactions are surprisingly mundane. I was driving my ATV and this giant black cat jumped across the trail and scared the ever-living crap out of me, and I never saw it again. I've had several people say that they saw it leap across a road while they were driving at night, and its stretched out body was the length of two-lane road, so enormous creature. And my daughter is really excited. She's my co-investigator, and so we go out in the Ape Cat research vehicle and follow up on leads and check it out. We've had stories of it. There's a ghost town not far from here, again about 20 minutes, near that Horse Thief Butte area. A woman came in and said that this ghost town is like right next to a hotel, and she said she was staying in the hotel. She was walking her dogs. And it's very close to the river, and she saw this big black cat that was wet, and this was on the Oregon side, and so it was definitely swimming. And she wound up telling the police about it, and they told her it was probably just a house cat, and she didn't know what she was looking at. And like, imagine how insulting that is. Like, you're a grown woman, and you see an enormous creature with your own two eyes. You know what a cat is, you know what a house cat is, and then to have a figure of authority tell you to blow you off and tell you you didn't know what you're looking at. And so, yeah, the
crazy.
Yeah,
right.
And so, and to me, like the joy of this process is sort of unraveling this mystery. About 100 miles upstream from us is the Hanford Nuclear Reservation. So this was a part of the Manhattan Project. This is the place where they created the plutonium that went into the nuclear weapons. And so literally at what was happening at Hanford as a part of the Manhattan Project, they were creating elements that did not exist in nature on an industrial scale, literally toying with the fabric of reality. And this is a site that's 600 square miles. It's enormous. And they chose it because, again, they needed the power of the Columbia River converted into electricity to make this facility run. And so they took the water as cooling water and the electricity from the hydroelectric dams that were built nearby, and they used that to usher in the atomic era. Like, the atomic frontier would not have occurred if it were not for the power of the Columbia River, which they literally transmuted and created elements that didn't exist before. And so what's amazing is that I had caught wind that they had an animal testing program out there. And so as I dug into the research, there's a really compelling story that this ape cat may have escaped from this Hanford top secret nuclear government site. I got a hold of some oral histories of one of the chief biologists out there. He tells the story of how they were irradiating apex predators. In this particular story, he talks about alligators. They had between 20 and 50 of these creatures that they were doing experiments on. And one night, 6 of these irradiated apex predators outsmarted the scientists and escaped into the Columbia River.
Oh my gosh.
And
It reminds
yeah,
me of the island of Dr. Moreau.
yeah.
That
And
story.
just today, a friend of mine who went to school with a biologist who worked out at Hanford said that they had, when they were out doing field work, they had seen like 3-eyed snakes and things like that out there. And it is right now one of the most hazardous cleanup sites in the country. But back in the 60s, during the Cold War, they were doing all kinds of crazy experiments. So these alligators escaped into the Columbia River. They sent out these covert Army hunting teams. They only ever captured 4 of them. And so there are 2 irradiated apex predator alligators swimming around the Columbia River. And even as late as the 80s, they were getting reports about alligators in the river. We've had reports of people thinking they may have seen an alligator in the river as well. And who knows what the truth of that is. The reason why that relates to these cats is that right now the U.S. government, 40% of our nuclear stockpile is guarded by dolphins. And the reason is that dolphins are much better sentry animals than humans could ever be. A dolphin is much better than detecting, like scuba divers trying to infiltrate a site, than sonar, because sonar can't tell the difference if it's a tuna or a sea lion or something like that. But the dolphins know, and they've rigged them up with some kind of device. It's got a harpoon, and the dolphin hits that diver and inflates a balloon, brings the diver to the surface, and the Navy scoops him up. But since the 1950s, the U.S. government has been using animals to protect its most sensitive nuclear sites. And so you can't bring dolphins into the Columbia River. Now, the Hanford nuclear site has got 90 miles of river coastline. And that is super difficult to guard. You know, as a soldier, like, geez, I don't even know how you do it. They had 4 Nike missile launch sites there, which are like these surface-to-air nuclear-tipped missiles that were supposed to take out Russian bombers over, like, the idea was detonate a nuclear weapon over U.S. populations rather than have those bombers take out the Hanford site. So, like, that's like the level of crazy that was going on with these Cold Warriors. Well, if you're a Cold Warrior and you've got this problem to solve of how are we going to guard 90 miles of river coastline, and you're seeing that they're having great success with dolphins, you're going to say, what is the world's greatest riverine predator? Surprise, surprise, it's the black jaguar. Jaguars, you know, if you look them up on YouTube, they can hold their breath for 15 minutes. They can eat underwater. They can swim a kilometer in the open ocean. They have night vision that's 6 times better than a human being. Pound for pound, they're the strongest big cats on the planet. And they always instinctively drag their prey to shore. So if you're a Cold Warrior, you're like, this checks all the boxes. Let's see if we can get a program together of training jaguars to be sentinel creatures to guard the country's, literally its most sensitive research and plutonium production facility. There were 9 nuclear reactors cranking there at the height of the Cold War. Like, there was no site that is a bigger deal. In fact, now it's still a huge hub of research. Even though the nuclear reactor's been closed down, they don't make weapons there anymore. There's a thing called the LIGO out there, which stands for the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. And if you go to the LIGO's website, they've got these 2.5-mile long vacuum tubes that are set perpendicular to each other through the desert. And on their website, their stated purpose is to detect anomalies in the space-time continuum. The lab is run by MIT and Caltech, and apparently 2 weeks after turning it on, they detected anomalies in the space-time continuum. So, like, there is crazy science going on out there, stuff that is definitely needs protecting. And so it's not unreasonable when you know all these facts to think that perhaps they had a jaguar sentinel program. Maybe they were doing interbreeding with other big cats. Maybe they were trying to retrobreed, you know, some type of Panthera atrox or something like that. The creatures, just like the alligators, outsmarted the scientists, and they escaped. if you're a big cat, you're not going to go north, east, or south deeper into the desert. You're going to head west where there is all this available habitat and food sources and all that kind of stuff. And so that may be, like, if I'm going to take off my paranormal hat and say, all right, let's find a physical only explanation for this. Why do we have a giant black panther creature creeping around 1,000 miles outside of its natural range? To me, the Hanford connection is one that seems to fit the fact pattern pretty well. But again, impossible to say.
Are you saying there's only one?
No, we think that there's a breeding population of them. Like I said, we know that there are, we had reports of baby cats, baby black cats with the parent,
right.
with the mother. And so I think that there's to go deeper into that story of Hanford, from day one, they had an animal testing program. The guy they picked to run it, his primary academic achievement was creating super animals who were larger and smarter and more survivable than their natural counterparts. And he was actually successful in the 1940s in doing this. And one of the things that his super creatures could do, his name was Dr. Loren Donaldson. He was from the University of Washington, if anyone wants to check the facts on that, was that they reached sexual maturity in half the time. And so part of the whole program from day one of Hanford, when we were fighting the Nazis and trying to unlock the secrets of the atom before they did, was the Nazis are definitely doing genetic experiments. They're definitely trying to create super animals and super soldiers. We better have a program to match that. And that was at Hanford. And Dr. Loren Donaldson was the guy who was running that. So to me, it's an interesting tale. I'm trying to make sense. I've had enough of my friends and neighbors and my customers who come through my store to believe that there's definitely a phenomenon going on here. There's definitely a creature, a big black cat roaming around Klickitat County, and in some cases Skamania County as well. And
so you've seen it yourself?
I have not seen it myself. Actually, my dog sitter has seen it. He saw it up in a tree on his property, and but I have not yet encountered it. And so, well, that's why we've got the 4x4 and my co-investigator.
You're on a mission too.
Yeah, and to me, it's the journey. Like, even if it was just a anomalous black cougar, that would be exciting to me. But it's the living in the presence of amazing and wondrous creatures, like that this is my home, and that these kinds of things are possible in a very real sense. Like, that's the wonder. Like, that's the joy.
Exciting.
That's the magic of this whole glowing orbs, and they're a common phenomenon. Did you lose me there? Okay, I'm still here.
No,
we have
kind
seen
of
glowing orbs,
many.
Yeah, and so we have seen these things ourselves, which are pretty amazing. And there's some really intense stories of people seeing them in the forests and the fields near a place called Beacon Rock, which is this 840-foot exposed core of an ancient volcano that actually has a trail. And my dog and I go up it, in the morning. It's one of our favorite hikes, and we walk up literally the side of a cliff. There's this trail that's been built into the side of this mountain, and it rises. It's maybe 100 yards from the river, and you can see up and down the river when you get to the top. But in this area, we've had reports of glowing orbs. We've had even reports of ghostly apparitions at the trailheads. And like I said, there's so many phenomenon going on out here. UFOs are commonly seen. We've had people send in pictures just a few miles from the store over Underwood Mountain. There's a really interesting picture taken from 11 miles away, which seems to show a UFO. Not a lot of data to look at in this particular image, but when I did my image enhancements on it, it had no wings or rotors, and it seemed to be just hovering over the top of the mountain. In Mount Adams, which is the mountain right above my head here in the image, that mountain is very famous for having UFO sightings, and in fact,
time anomalies, I've heard.
Yep, time anomalies. Kenneth Arnold was the sort of the witness that set off the flying saucer craze in June 1947. And he was flying a private plane near Mount Rainier, which is the next mountain north of Mount Adams. And he saw 9 flying saucers that were flying at a speed unlike any craft he'd ever seen. They didn't have wings. And they literally flew to Mount Adams, is what he observed. And we've had folks come in and show us pictures of a physical door that opens on one of the lower peaks, which people believe is a UFO hangar. They've seen craft flying in and out of that. A guy came into the store. This was probably last fall. And he said, I want to tell you a story about a portal that I saw near Mount Adams. And I kind of jumped the gun. I said, you mean the hangar door? I said, nope, not the hangar door. It looked like an opening in the sky. It looked like a circle right next to the mountain, floating in the air. And the sky behind the circle was different than the sky around the circle. And he said first he thought there was something wrong with his eyes, and he rubbed them and he looked at it from a couple different angles, and he hopped in his car and he drove to a different location, and he could still see this strange opening in the sky right next to the mountain. And, I'm trying to make sense of how all these things work. And it may be that some people's minds are prepared. They need there to be a physical thing. And so they see this hangar door opening on the mountain. And other people don't need that, and so they see maybe a different reality or a more clear reality of a portal of a non-physical nature opening. So I mentioned that Missy saw the cat in Klickitat Canyon, which is basically over this shoulder right here. And we've had reports. So Highway 14 goes right along the river. And Klickitat Canyon sort of has a T intersection with Highway 14. And there's a set of tunnels just past the town of Lisle. And we had a report of a portal off the side of the road. Again, a sort of a circular opening. And the landscape behind the circle was different than the landscape around the circle. And, you drive by it and then it's gone and there you have it. So again, there is this whole array of phenomenon happening here, and it is just amazing to be sort of at ground zero. I feel so fortunate to have a staff that's willing to play along with me and a wife that's willing to play along and allow us to
and your co-pilot Evelyn.
Yep, who's totally into it. And to live in this enchanted landscape. It's literally a living, alive place. And some days, my drive to work is through one of the most beautiful places in the world, and my heart just sings. And so I come on interviews and shows like yours. I want more people to know about it. I'm an old adventurer. I'm not a scientist. I'm not really a researcher of any note. And I would love for folks to come out here and see for themselves and experience these magical things. Even if you don't see a UFO or a Sasquatch or a giant ape cat out here in the gorge, I guarantee you, if you spend time here, you will have a magical experience. There's something about this place. My bachelor's degree theories about magnetic resonance and electromagnetic fields and stuff like that. I'm grasping at straws, and I'm sure that there are people way smarter than me who could come out here and legitimately investigate this, or even people who are way more intuitive than me who could come out here and have a psychic sense of what's going on. I just want to share this astonishing, wondrous place with more people.
I absolutely could see why. Some of the same anomalies are happening here in Utah. They actually have a show out, the Skinwalker Ranch show. Well, they have several shows, but the one that's going right now is a series where they're doing investigation there, and it has a lot to do with the electromagnetic frequencies and the anomalous occurrences thereof. It's quite interesting how they're connecting these anomalies with science and actually proving them to be real, and not saying it's just old wives' tales or whatever they're saying,
hallucinations, or you're drunk, or you're high, or
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the more that we talk about it and and share our stories, the more people are going to say, not everyone's going to have the same experience, but it opens the door to possibilities instead of shooing it away. And then it gives it a greater presence, right? It's actually tangible. It's not just something one person said. Now several people are coming forward and saying, I had a similar experience. And I think that's what's important as you keep the conversation going. And for you to have the invitation, come and check out this magical land that I'm surrounded by and have an experience just to even be here and possibly more, I think is really, really cool. I'm drawn to that area. Especially now that you've shared so much, I'm like, when are we going to plan this trip?
We need to go on a road trip.
I'd love to have you out. Shoot me a line, and I'll certainly take you to some of the hot spots and the most beautiful spots.
Yeah, I mean, my son may be
Insider.
getting stationed there soon. It's one of the 3 spots that they may end up in. And
Well, it would be a huge win for him to come out to Joint Base Lewis McChord.
He agrees.
That's where I was stationed, and it is literally one of the most beautiful Army posts, and it's got some of the best managed forests in the Northwest. The Army controls all the land out there, and it's an enormous facility, like hundreds of square miles, and it is stunningly beautiful. For a military base, it's crazy.
Yeah, I bet. And I think his end game is to be in Washington. He's never physically, well, I shouldn't say never, but not in an area like yours. But he's a wilderness guy. Like I was telling you, he really wants to just be in the middle of the wilderness around very, very, very few people.
This is the right place to be.
All the time. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. He never listens to my show, but I'm going to tell him to.
Check this one out.
All right. So you are inviting everyone to your neck of the woods. How can they find out where that is, James?
Well, the best place to start is margiesoutdoorstore.com. And but the place that you would fly into would be Portland, and just head east 60 miles. On the Oregon side, our sister city is Hood River, and there's a bridge between Hood River and Bingen, which is where my store is at. Right now, we've got this map which has a lot of the locations of many of the sightings. We've got people were asking me, like, what are you hearing about in these reports? And so I put together these sort of self-guided tours. We call them arcane adventure maps, and each one focuses on a different paranormal hotspot in the area. The first one I did was at Horse Thief Butte, where my daughter was so captivated. But that one includes, some of the sightings of the ape cat. Small humanoids have been seen in that area. Lots of interesting things going on out there. Another one is by this Beacon Rock area, where we saw the orbs and some of the ghostly apparitions, and some other nature spirits are out in that zone. And so I'm trying to put these different tools together so that people can go out and see it for themselves. And then I'm working with a bus tour company. It's called Sasquatch Shuttle. I like the name. And I am writing a script for a driving bus tour of the gorge that people can check out. It's probably like a 3 or 4 hour tour, but it takes you to all these amazing sites, and you can see the petroglyphs and visit the store. And there's a hotel in Hood River, which is one of the 10 most haunted places in Oregon that we're hoping to get to stop at and see the geology and just the majesty and wonder and the waterfalls and all that kind of stuff. So,
well, it sounds quite magical, quite amazing. Thank you for introducing us to your magic wonderland. Seriously.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was really my pleasure.
Well, it takes courage to come out and talk about things people don't normally talk about. So kudos to you. So good. All right, everyone, make sure you check out James's site. Once again, margiesoutdoor.com. There's a lot of information on there. So if you never make it to Washington, you can live vicariously. Your website is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you very much.
I think the images are very spectacular.
Those are all pictures I've taken in the past 2 years. And,
gorgeous.
When I was down here and my wife was up in Seattle, I didn't have a lot to do. So I'd wake up early and catch sunrises and sunsets. And I will tell you, it just filled my heart with joy. Like it was just such overwhelming beauty. And I would think to myself, there are pictures that I can't show because no one would believe they're real. That's all filters and Instagram. And I'm just, no, like you just can't even. You have to see it to believe it. But it is jaw-droppingly beautiful.
Well, what a blessed life you have. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Thank you for having me.
It's been lovely.
And to all of our listeners, thanks for hanging out. You guys have been quiet. I'm sure you've just been enthralled into this story time that James has shared with us. But we'll see you guys all next week. Until then, be good to yourself and be good to each other. We'll see you then.
Have a great one.